Hello and welcome to Story X Story, the podcast by Manga that dives deep into stories across pop culture, plus gives you advice on creating your own. It's episode 218, and I'm your co-host Nigel.
I am content creator and co-host.
And as always, we are bringing you interesting discussions with diverse voices, and to help us out as we process what I feel will be a Pandora's box of emotions in this episode is Comic Creator Feff Silvers. Feff, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, it's been pretty good, although I have been a little nervous about talking about this because it is a very heavy story. I will not be afraid to admit that in the last 20 minutes, I don't think there's a moment where I wasn't crying. So for me, it's a very powerful story. So I'm looking forward to talking about it, but yeah, I'm a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
I will not be surprised if I cry during the recording of this episode.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about too.
That's why we can just cry out of it.
You have been warned, listeners. It's going to be an emotional one. But if you're still with us, subscribe to the podcast. You can subscribe wherever podcasts are found, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, YouTube as well. So if you listen to your podcast on YouTube, you can find us there. You can also send us your feedback and questions in a variety of ways. You can send us a voice message on our Spotify for Podcasters page. You can email us the old-fashioned way, studio77@mymatter.com, or you can throw your thoughts at us on social media. We are at MyMatter on Twitter, where you will find 0 presidents now, at MyMatterTV on Instagram and TikTok, at mymatter.com on Blue Sky, or at Life of a W Gamer on Instagram and TikTok, and at Tazziii on everything else, and that includes tazziii.bsky.social on Blue Sky. You can also check out the mymatter.com website while we work on something new in the background, but it's currently there. It shows what we do if you weren't fully familiar with all the different bits that we do as a brand, as a business. Check it out. And you can also join the Studio 77 Discord to be part of the My Matter community. So before we get to today's story discussions, let's update you with the latest from the My Matter universe. We're in that phase where we've done one manga and we are sort of working on other sort of future projects. So we don't want to announce anything too soon, but we still have our existing latest manga, Origins Against All Odds. So this is available. If you haven't checked it out, what are you waiting for? Check it out, mymatter.com. See what it's all about. So it's a manga that we kickstarted last year, got it done this year. It features Tazzii's character in the My Matter universe for a reflective, hope-filled manga about pursuing creative career goals in the face of resistance and doubters from the world around you. So, yeah, it's great to see it out. We did a launch event for it at the March of this year. We've got some video from that. We did a roundtable about the creative career journey. So that's available on YouTube. You can check that out. We'll put a link in the show notes as well. And then the comic is available too. We also have lots to come for the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign. So this is our diversity and inclusion campaign for the video games industry. So we have started it. We've launched it for this year. So it's the 4th year of doing it. So we have another snapshot of 40 players and makers that you can check out on our socials. We've also got their profiles on our website, the campaign website, looklikeagamer.com. And we are working on a new schedule of events. So we've got the Cupcake and Gamepad Social, we've got our Games Industry Explained Roundtable, and our Friends and Family Game Design Jam. So the dates are still TBC, but by the time you listen to this, we might have confirmed some. So check the website, looklikeagamer.com, to see when the next one is and get involved. We've already been at Comic-Con this year. Later this month, in June, we are going to be at the BAFTA Young Game Designer Showcase event. So some of the team will be there. Some of them might even be on stage. We'll see. So that's June to 29th. You can check that out, find out more about not just our campaign, but it's going to be other game developers and people related to games. A lot of young people with very good ideas. I know because I judged some of them this year. And just it was all round wholesome event for young people getting into the games industry. So we've got that to come as well. Over on our Studio 77 activities, you can check out a number of shows where we talk to creative professionals and play games on Twitch, on YouTube as well. So each month we do different shows that include the Studio 77 report with myself and Tazziii talking about games news, talking about the My Matter brand and what's to come. I do casual conversations with comic creators. Our next episode is going to be in July with Rachel Smith and her comic writing partner. And we've got games night where we just get together and play games when they work. Most of the time they work. Sometimes it's actually a bit of a mess. But roll the dice and tune in to find out which is which this time. So yeah, make sure you're following us on Twitch, on YouTube, whichever you prefer to check those out. And if you're a young, aspiring creative professional or you know one, then check out the My Matter Showrunners Work Experience Program. So we have been creating opportunities for young people aged 16 and up to work with our team across comic production, events, and content creation. And if you came to our launch event, you would have seen some of the young people that contributed to the latest manga. Who saw us at Comic-Con, you would have seen some that were part of the team for our booth and our stage antics as well. So yeah, a bunch of different experiences there. You can email us, showrunners@mymatter.com, to find out more about that. So now you're all caught up with the My Matter universe, let's talk about some of the stories that we've been enjoying this week.
So this is the part of the podcast where we have a spoiler-free discussion about the stories everyone has been reading, watching, or playing. So we'll start with our guest, Fife. Do you want to let us know what you've been?
Yeah, so I've been basically returning to Witch Hat Atelier. I started reading it a while ago and then sort of got up to a certain point and kind of forgot about it for a bit and then realised it's been going on. So I'd been on holiday for like about 2 weeks, and so I was like, I'm just going to catch up on a bunch of stuff. Caught up with Witch Hat Atelier, absolutely adore it. It's just, the characters are so well written, the story is just incredible, and it's just it's like a really kind of nice, interesting story about like persevering and skilling up, oddly enough.
Yeah, I recently started, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, in for a treat. I'm very biased, but I love things about witches, so...
Same.
Yeah.
Was that everything that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I haven't really, since I got back off holiday, I've not had chance to catch up with much else.
Cool. Well, I'll lead off that with another witch-themed show, which is Once Upon a Witch's Death. And I can't remember if I mentioned this last episode or not, but it's worth mentioning again, because if I did mention it last episode, I just started watching it. And now I have finished watching the first season, and I am not disappointed. It's about a witch that gets some unfortunate news and then has lots of these encounters that kind of help to appreciate life, I would say. But it's really good, it's really fun, and the characters are really interesting. It's all about magic and witchcraft and helping people. And I'm up to date with Apothecary Diaries. You're going to hear this as long as it exists. You will hear me talking about it because it's so good. And the realization that it probably has more blood in it now than any other anime I've watched. I think a lot of people are sleeping on it because they think it's like a just super shoujo anime, and it's just not. It just isn't. Please check it out. I've been playing The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I just got back to picking that up, and also Skyward Sword. Which Skyward Sword I'm playing on stream, and Echoes of Wisdom I'm just playing in my own time. It's nice. I'm being reminded of what I love about gaming and why The Legend of Zelda is like up there in the top area of
general
gaming.
Vicinity of,
the upper echelon. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last one I want to talk about is Yakuza Fiancé, which it's been on my list for a little while. So I just started watching the anime, and I feel like I need to just pick up the manga because I don't know if I can wait until the next season. I am absolutely in love with this show. At first, I was a bit unsure with the first couple of episodes, but it is excellent. It's literally about like it's kind of an arranged engagement, well, a plotted engagement between two children of Yakuza groups, of Yakuza families. And they're like, basically, it's so funny. They're like their grandfathers are like, have like plotted this thing, and then they end up like, so they're like not actually engaged, but it's like as if they are. Like the grandparents have basically made
like a pretense.
Yeah. As if they're like planning to be engaged. And it's a lot of fun because all it is one of them trying to convince the other and falling like head over heels for the other. And it is hilarious. There is so much funny. If you can imagine, like these are two Yakuza families. So there's a lot of like fighting and politics between the families. And like lots of mystery to uncover. And it's just brilliant. I love it. And I love the characters. They're so fun. They're just so funny.
It does sound really fun. I might actually have to put that on my list of things to do when I get a bit more time.
Honestly, I highly recommend, especially if you enjoy like an angsty and a bad boy kind of character and a strong female lead, but that is still very feminine, if that makes sense. Like very like typically feminine, if that.
It sounds like my jam, to be honest.
And like doting grandparents.
Definitely my jam.
Who are also Yakuza, so
cherry on the cake.
Yeah. No, it's a really good one. Though I don't know if it's helpful for my taste in men because now I want a Yakuza fiance. Do you know what? It's because they don't mess about. Like it's just decisiveness. I like that. But maybe the like murder and stuff isn't so good. But I mean,
it's generally frowned upon in society.
Yeah.
But other than that, some of them are very well-rounded and like emotionally mature, which is hard to come by. So maybe that's the trade-off.
As he wants to see your police record, basically.
A lot of fun. Really good. Yeah, Nigel, what about you?
So I've been watching and playing a bit, actually. So I'll go through a few because some I've mentioned before. So I wanted to just shout out Dr. Stone again. So I started season 2 of that. I don't know how rated this is, how popular or not, but I feel it should be popular. If it's not already, it should be. I just feel it's a very good anime, and almost, I would say almost should be, not even almost, probably should be required watching in schools if teachers are thinking about how to engage kids. Like this guy, Senku, the main character, is teaching science and he's doing it in a fun and engaging way. So yeah, it's I won't say too much because it's season 2, but the whole kind of premise is like the world has been petrified, turned to stone. As one super smart kid, Senku has counted the thousands of years while being petrified, and then becomes unpetrified and looks to rebuild the world, essentially using science. So they're just going through all the basics. Like, he started, he was making ramen at one point and other more technologically advanced things. But yeah, no, it's really, really good. They've got the narrative and the actual I'm learning science. I did mention this last deep dive, but I forgot to mention one thing. So I've been watching Superstore, which funny show, group of random people working in a big box store. I forgot to mention the character Bo, who I just need to circle back, circle back around and talk about this guy. So yeah, there's this character, Bo. He's the boyfriend of one of the younger characters who's, I think, supposed to be 17 or 18 in the show. He's so I don't even know how to describe him. He's like, I don't know. He's like if a kid grew up watching, I don't know, VH1 and suddenly got tuned into BT. That would make sense to maybe the American viewers as well. But it is hilarious. Every time he's on the screen, he just cracks me up. He's so good at being bad at doing that, and it's just hilarious. I got nothing more to say.
And a lack of intelligence. I actually don't know where his intelligence
just
lies.
Such a lack of intelligence, like aggressively unintelligent.
Like it's not like you're like, oh, he's street smart, because he just isn't that either. Like he's not emotionally like, I don't know where his intelligence lies.
Yeah, like I generally don't see what she sees in him, but I love that she sees something in him, so he can keep coming back. Yeah, that's what I had to say about that. Just Bo, it cracks me up every time.
Now I want to watch it again.
Yeah. So is it still going? Because I saw like 6 seasons. I don't know if it's still. I imagine it's okay. Because America Ferrera is like, yeah, she's a big movie star and everything now. So I guess I don't know. I'll find out. I'll find out how it all ends soon enough. Yeah. So yeah, watching that South of Midnight, playing that. Already talked about that, but yeah, just continue to be impressed by this game. The narrative around it, really like something different. The mechanics, while not like mind-blowing, just work for the type of game it is, and musically as well. I always feel I'm not so musically inclined. Not that I don't enjoy music, I very much do, but in terms of talking about it, I don't have the vocabulary, but it feels, whatever they're doing with the music, it helps with the feel of the game. That's as best as I can describe it. So yeah, really like that this has come out, and it's very solid game. I started watching Better Call Saul. Only seen 1 episode as of recording, but yeah, I started watching it. It's the spin-off to Breaking Bad, which I would put as one of the best shows. Yeah, it's on the best shows list. So I don't know what took me so long to start this. I've known it was there, I just not started it, but yeah, started. So it's Bob Odenkirk. He plays the lawyer character on Breaking Bad, gets his own show. So I can't say too much on it, literally, because I've only seen 1 episode, but bookmark that. I'm sure I'll come back to it. And the one I really wanted to talk about is the Pixar series on Disney Plus, Win or Lose. Have either of you seen this?
No.
I've not even heard of it. This is how much of a rock I've been under.
So you need to watch this, because this has very much surprised me. I was aware of it. I saw it sort of pop up, but I don't know, because I think Pixar has a spin-off series from the Inside Out universe on Disney Plus as well. Haven't watched it. But on the recommendation of one of our team, Brooke, mentioned it in relation to a project we're working on, but just as a thing. So I thought, okay, cool. If I knew of it, I'll watch it. It's essentially a mini-series about a group of, I'd say kids, but it's not just the kids, it's the adults as well, but primarily centers on the children, who are part of a co-ed softball team called the Pickles. And it's all about the time in between, or the time which is the week before the big championship game. So that's why I knew it was something about softball, something about kids. But now I'm watching probably about halfway in it, maybe. What it does has really surprised me. So it takes the perspective of the different characters in the same span of time. So, like a Crash, if you're of a certain age, or trying to think of a more recent example. But that mechanic where the same events told from different perspectives.
Like Rashomon style, I think they call it.
Okay, then I learned something just now. if that's what it is, I'm gonna Google that in a bit. Yeah, so it's that, and it's really good. It's such so I always hold up The Last of Us Part 2 as a great example in video games of essentially forcing the player to experience empathy. This almost does that but in this medium. So it by taking the different perspectives in the way it has, it really heightens that empathy aspect. So you see characters like characters will be going through things and then sort of tangential characters, but then the next episode will show it from that character's view, and you get like, oh, okay, there's a different side to that, or one character is feeling something and you see why they were feeling like that thing. Is so good. And I feel a good, I say tool, I almost feel that's like a reductive word, but a good tool to have the conversations around empathy and the idea of like, you don't know what other people are going through. But it's also entertaining. The animation, because at first, and part of the reason why I didn't watch it or didn't start watching it, like the animation didn't necessarily attract me. It felt quite generic. Not, that's probably too harsh. That is too harsh, but in that direction. But what's interesting is the way each episode is animated in a way that fits with what the character's going through. I'm actually quite impressed by that as well. So it's better than I thought. Yeah, just emotionally, narratively, is really good. It's really good. I'd highly recommend people to check it out if you haven't already. So yeah, wanted to get to that. So I'm gonna finish that up. And it's one of those, like, if you're a storyteller, I'm sure you can learn. I'm learning like things from it. So it's one of those, is that good? You can learn from it. I mean, you can learn from bad things as well, but this is definitely not bad. Highly recommended. So that is what I have been watching, and hopefully, yeah, you will both watch it as well, because I'd like to know what you think of the way it deals with that empathy side of things. So that's those are the stories that we have been enjoying and being impacted by. Now let's get to our main story discussion. Today, we are going to be talking about A Silent Voice, the 2016 anime film based on the manga of the same name by Yoshitoki Oima. The film was produced by Kyoto Animation, directed by Naoko Yamada, and written by Reiki Yoshida, with character designs by Futoshi Nishiya and music by Kensuke Oshio. So, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about all the details that we have time for in this story. I should also do a content warning as well, because the themes in this are very heavy. So there are going to be discussions about bullying, suicide, and self-hating. All that is very heavy, essentially. So that is the spoiler warning and the content warning as well. I will do a recap of the story. But first, let's get everyone's quick takes and general impressions. We'll start with our guest. Feff, what did you think of this story?
It's surprisingly hard-hitting. I was surprised at how many times that I actually cried throughout it. I know I'm like giggling about it, but it's literally because it took me by surprise. It was very eye-opening as well, especially because I've sort of grown up with like anime, manga and stuff. It was actually like quite eye-opening into like how Japanese society deals with accessibility, like disability, and kind of the culture of bullying and how that's handled, or maybe not so well handled in schools. But it was like a really like a beautiful film. Like, I'm very glad to have watched it. I feel like afterwards my soul was like equally like 5 times heavier, but also 5 times lighter at the same time, if that makes sense.
No, I get that. So, Tazziii, how about yourself? What did you think of this film?
Ooh. Very emotional, and this touched me very personally in a lot of ways. And just, I feel like the way it portrayed things was so well done. There's just like little bits of how they sort of like the imagery that was used and the use of sound and how they told that story was just really, really beautiful. And this really like touched my being. I literally cried for half of this movie. I was in full blown like ugly cry tears.
Okay. It might be a long episode. So, yeah, I did do the content warning. Just we all heard that. So, yeah, this is a lot. This is a heavy. This might be like the heaviest sort of film. Definitely like the themes wise. that I've seen. I felt this is like really powerful. I would even say it's a powerhouse of a film. It's a tour de force of emotion. I'm trying to think of other cliche things that actually aren't cliche in this example, because they're all very accurate. So I had not seen this before we put it on a schedule for the podcast. So in a way, I wasn't ready. I thought there was some, because I saw the premise and I thought, okay, cool, got it. But the levels it goes to in terms of depicting what are very heavy films, it's unfortunately relatable to in some ways, but also there's some hope. We're going to see if we can get to some hope by the end of this. But the way it depicts things like the impact of bullying, like self-concept and things that in such a realistic and mature way, and then, like you said, Tazziii, using the aspects of the medium, so visually, in terms of audio, is just something to behold, and it's a bit of a therapy session watching that film, because that puts some words to things that now make more sense, which I'm sure we will get into in just a moment. So I'll do a recap, pull out those feelings again, and then we'll dive into it. So this is a story that takes us to a classroom where Shoya Ishida and his friends bully Shoko Nishimiya, a deaf transfer student. When the principal learns of the bullying, Shoya's friends frame him as the only bully. Shoya blames Shoko and they get into a fight. Shoko is then transferred to another school, with Shoya keeping her notebook. With his reputation as a bully following him, Shoya becomes a depressed loner, believing suicide is his only way out. However, he decides to make amends with those he has wronged before ending his life. Shoya reconciles with Shoko when returning her notebook. Shoya is also befriended by Tomohiro Nagatsuka, who feels indebted to Shoya for saving him from a bully. Shoya tries to meet up with Shoko, much to the anger of her younger sister, Yuzuru. When Yuzuru runs away from home after an argument with Shoko over her photos, Shoya offers to let Yuzuru stay at his house, and the two begin to bond. Shoya helps Shoko reconnect with Miyoko Sahara, a genuine friend to Shoko in the same school as Noyoka Ueno, a genuine bully to Shoko, and emphasis on genuine. Shoko also meets Miki Kawaii, her elementary school class president, who now attends the same school as Shoya and is in a relationship with Satoshi Mashiba. Shoko later gives Shoya a gift and confesses her feelings for him, but runs off upset when Shoya mishears her. Shoya invites Shoko to an amusement park with Tomohiro, Miyoko, Miki, and Satoshi, where they are joined by Naoka, who has feelings for Shoya and also grudges Shoko for Shoya's bad turn in life before slapping her, which Yuzuru secretly records for Shoya to see. The slap leads to the group falling out when Miki exposes Shoya's past to keep herself blameless in Shoko's bullying. After Shoko and Yuzuru's grandmother passes away, Shoya takes them to the countryside to cheer them up, where he realizes that Shoko blames herself for everything that's happened to him. Shoya decides to devote his entire social life to the sisters. During a fireworks festival, Shoko leaves early, ostensibly to finish her homework. Shoya follows her to retrieve Yuzuru's camera, finding Shoko prepared to jump from her balcony. Shoya manages to stop her, only to fall into the river below. He is rescued by his former friends Kazuki, but his injuries leave him in a coma. One night, Shoko dreams about receiving a farewell gift from Shoya. Shoya awakens from his coma and makes his way to the bridge, where he finds Shoko crying. He apologizes for bullying her and tells her not to blame herself for how his life has turned out, asking Shoko to help him keep living. When Shoya returns to school, he reunites with his friends and realizes how much they still care for him, and they all go to the school festival together. Shoya tears up, realizing he has finally redeemed himself. The end. Yeah, so there's a lot in there, and there's a lot to discuss and pick apart. So I wanted, because I didn't actually know this was an adaptation of a manga series that started as a one shot and then was later turned into a full manga series. I don't know if either of you have read or engaged with the manga or know about it.
I didn't know it was a manga, but when I was sort of looking into things, I definitely added it to my list of things to read, because apparently the manga goes into a lot of the character backgrounds. But fun fact is that the manga almost didn't get released because the publisher and the author were subject to lawsuits over the way that, because it more accurately depicted how bad bullying can be in schools, and people didn't want that being made public. It was actually like, yes, it almost didn't exist because of these lawsuits. I didn't really look into it so much, but I am looking forward to sort of reading the manga and sort of finding out a bit more about the characters. Like, I think we do like find out enough, but yeah, there's definitely...
Yeah, there's more, yeah. I think it goes into more. Well, I imagine, we'll go into more. I think, having not read the manga, I feel I can still say the anime was very good and very impactful and powerful, as we've all mentioned. But yeah, I imagine there's more depth in the manga, and I'm now really curious to read it. I feel like I've got to get this on Blu-ray and then get the manga and just like work my way through that. So yeah, so no, it's and it's always the thing with like adaptations, particularly from book to film, where you've got a much shorter time in terms of like space to tell the story and runtime. So then you've got to like shorten some bits. I know some characters were reduced a lot more than they might be in the manga, some situations, and it's how do you do that while still delivering on the meaning of that. But yeah, they did a good job. It won the Japanese Movie Critics Award for Best Animated Feature Film. It was nominated for other things, but lost out to, I think, Your Name pipped it to one thing, and then I can't remember the other thing. But yeah, no, just like a very meaningful adaptation and being able to tackle these is like, even one of these topics could have been like one in a very heavy film, but it's got multiple in here. And before we were recording, I mentioned, so I'm part of a panel at the Children's Media. I say part of, it was my idea. I pitched it to them. So I'm doing a panel at the Children's Media Conference about anime, and one of the key things is how and why anime is able to tackle often difficult topics in this way without talking down to its audience. I don't know if either of you have a view on it, because I just feel anime just, I won't say obviously not in every case, but by and large I feel it's better at it, or doing it in a mature way. I don't know if you agree, and if you have any thoughts on why.
I agree. I think it's probably because in Japan these kinds of media aren't seen as just children's media in the way that they are in the West. So there's a lot more space for nuance, a lot more trust that the audience will get it, like certain themes. Whereas, as I say, like over here, because there's still, it's getting better. At least over here it's getting better. But I think there's still that in the West tend to be more like plot oriented, if that makes sense. So like action, things have to happen, whereas like I feel like over in the East they have a bit more patience for more character driven work where maybe not much happens. I mean, Japan has also given us like slice of life comics, like as in Manga Daiho, Yotsuba. I can apparently only think of them from one creator, but I just think the medium over there is just, it's seen as being something that can be just more like, it is wider. Like adults read manga, adults read, like watch anime. It's not made specifically for like, you've got obviously your set audiences, but I guess in over there was like a bigger idea of who that audience could be that we still don't get mainstream in the West, because obviously like we're in the comics industry, like it's like a big indie scene that caters to everyone, but I don't think that has quite reached like the mainstream population in the way that like comics do in like France and and like Japan and Korea and and places like that.
And I think it's interesting because I think a lot of anime, not all obviously, but a large enough percentage of anime actually tackles subjects better than even a live action Western movie or like Western show. I think that's a case of, but I think it still goes into the same thing, but of just trusting your audience. Like I think there's like the difference in a lot of Western media is that for it to, especially for it to, I guess, like hit the charts or like get popular enough, they just want it to fit into this nice cushy box. And not many people take risks that involve trusting your audience will get what you're putting down. And I'm sure that's not the directors. I'm sure that it falls to someone else, but
yeah, it is like about profitability, isn't it? And like therefore you've got to try and like market it to the biggest audience, which means often kind of means trying to, I can't think of a phrase. It's not like dumbing it down, but it's kind of like trying to simplify things
appease
and like
it to the lowest common denominator. Audience.
Yeah, and you have to have, you know, like a happy ending or a general, like I find at least like maybe it's not so much like maybe we're going in the right way this time, but like at least there's always been a sense that there has to be some kind of hopeful note throughout an entire piece. Even when there's drama, it can only get so bad. Like we definitely, like if we were to do like, so if there was something like as psychologically hitting as like A Silent Voice, I think in the West we would probably call it like a horror movie. Like it would be a psychological horror.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that I guess we're getting better, relatively speaking, because so on this panel, interestingly, is someone from the BBC, a commissioner from the BBC, and I just saw, because we recently, I say we, I'm not involved, but there was recently the Annecy Animation Festival, which is like a big animation festival. Everyone in the industry like goes to it, and the BBC announced an anime inspired show, and then one of the producers on this panel is from Disney, and Disney also just announced a more anime show because they've got a French studio to work with on it. So it's there's more and more awareness, but I always feel there's something missing. And I was trying to find where it said, I'll find it and share it if I can't get it during the podcast. But another panelist on it is Jerome Mazandarani, and he looks like he's done a bunch of stuff. So as we record, I've not met everyone yet, but by the time this episode is out, I would have met most people. And he said something which just captured it so perfectly. I'm going to paraphrase it, and this is in the context of like children's animation or children's media, but I think just applies. But in the West, we make things more from a paternal lens, and in Japan, with anime, it's more of a fraternal. So the way you speak to the audience is just like fundamentally different. And I think that goes to what you were saying, Feff, about the culture and like where the level of like respect and like just validity that anime has. Whereas here, I feel like anime, just cartoons in general, are like, this is how you talk to kids, versus this is a medium to tell a story. And I think that shows in something like A Silent Voice, because this is like, you know, none of us are kids here, but just as you're watching it, this is like, oh, this I feel something. I feel like someone's talking to me, not down to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I also would argue I would not show A Silent Voice to a kid. Like
no, this is hopefully that was covered in the content warning. But I guess my point is in general, even with what I usually think of is like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where I feel a young audience can watch that, but there are some complex, heavy topics that are dealt in such a way that it's not, oh, this is what it means to be, I don't know, conspiracy, and this is what truth means. It's just you're on the journey. And I feel that something like this, like A Silent Voice, like we are on the journey with this character, and they're feeling all the feelings that comes with it, and just something that anime does so well.
And I find that interesting that you say you wouldn't show this to a kid, because I would have loved the film as a kid because it's relatable. It's the experience that, I mean, it's a 12 and up, so obviously not anyone younger than 12.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I wouldn't go under 10.
I wouldn't go under 10.
But it is an experience of children, like that. The reason why it made me cry so much is because it was very
relatable.
very relatable. of experiences that I had at that age and would have helped to maybe process some of those.
I wish I'd
things.
watched this like 5 years ago. I would have.
Yeah, same. No,
me.
same. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I guess this is probably just like where everyone's comfort levels differ. But for me, like, if it didn't start with a suicide attempt, then, you know, probably. But it's kind of like try to, like, I suppose, like, would kids understand that
a lot of
concept
12-year-olds I remember starting having, sorry, trigger warning, I remember having suicidal thoughts from as early as maybe, like, I was in primary school, so I was under 10, and a lot of my friends also have had similar experiences of having those thoughts, and I think it is something that a lot of young people go through, especially if you've experienced bullying, and it is a lot more common. I think that's the beauty of this film, is that it does actually talk about something in a really understandable way that can be
no
helpful.
Judgment necessarily.
Yeah, and it's not something you can talk to an adult about. I get that you're like, oh, because it's it's a sad thing, but it's also a lived thing. It's like very. I wouldn't just like let them watch it on their own. It'd be great to like have it as something that you can watch and have like questions answered. But I think hiding it is exactly the reason why.
Well, absolutely. Well, yeah, that's the thing that I was saying, wasn't it? Is that the manga almost didn't exist because people didn't want
this to
that knowledge of that being displayed in public.
Yeah.
And probably it's like the difference in backgrounds and stuff. Like, it's not something, the feelings I haven't struggled with until like my late teens. Like, but yeah, it's actually a good point that, like, you know, and also like it's quite sad that like you couldn't feel like you felt you couldn't talk to an adult about it. But then that's the beauty of, as you say, that's why we need things like this, and perhaps actually maybe to make it more available with like almost like a 12A instead of a 12. Like
there was a Japanese politician who lost her hearing at the age of 1, and is I'm quoting from our culture website. So a Japanese politician who lost her hearing at the age of 1 and is a prominent member of the deaf community in Tokyo suggested in an interview that the film be shown to schools, to young children, to not only teach them about hearing disability, but also better educate on the effects of bullying. So I kind of see, obviously you do it in the right way, but there's value in that, just because it's such a relatable way of telling this perspective. And I mean, from the narrative itself, it's funny actually how the last episode we talked about Minecraft, and I feel this is the sort of like the complete opposite end of the scale in terms of like obviously like the themes and everything, but just narrative and exposition. So like narratively speaking, the opening for this was kind of, because my tip for that episode was about exposition, and this is what I was talking about. Again, caveat, I'm not saying every film has to do the exact same way. That film does what it did very well, but this was my point, where the opening to this I thought was like fantastic, because it tells you a lot about the character in a short amount of time without it over explained, or in some cases not even necessarily explained. It just is. So, and this whole film is very symbolic. So like narratively, things aren't necessarily in a nice, neat chronological order, but it goes towards the feeling of it. I felt something similar with Your Name, where there's a point in Your Name where it's like, if you want to think about it a lot, you can pick out the plot holes, especially with the time mechanic. But this is just about the feeling. In that case, it's about love. It's just about how this all comes together to convey that feeling. And I'm just like, with that, it's fantastic. And I feel similar here, where, not that I'm saying there are plot holes or anything, but just the way it's told is very much about the feeling of it. So yeah, we get the opening sequence, and like Feff says, it's essentially we seeing a character who's like planning this suicide attempt, and it's not just because it's not a spur of the moment, and the symbols in this tell you, like the calendar, because he's got the calendar, but he's ripped off, I think, everything past, was it April 15th or something, that says it's not just a spur of the moment thing, it's planned. And as we find out, it's as a result of like some serious self-loathing. So yeah, I mean, what did you think about like that opening and your view of Shoya at that point?
I remember feeling like, actually, knowing the premise of the whole story, it's quite the shocking start. So like, you kind of see, obviously you get like the calendar and you see these things, like it's kind of got like last day at work, and then he gives, it's basically things that make sense later on in the film, but at first you're just kind of left questioning, like, what is this about? It's like a really good hook. What I found interesting, knowing what happens later, is that his intention to jump is interrupted when he hears fireworks.
Yes.
Which contrasts quite differently with Shoko's later.
But same symbol, fireworks.
Yeah. It's just that he hears them and she doesn't, in a way. Like, he's like almost snapped out of it, I think, if I remember rightly. He's like snapped out of it. And then obviously I think there is a bit of like sort of jumping back and forth in time, because I think it's like after that we see him like go to that sign language school, I think. But it's definitely like, it's very much a very like hard hitting opening. Like, I'm looking at the notes that I made like when I watched it, and like the first line I wrote is like, starts with suicide? Question mark, exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, what have I got myself in for with this film?
It's a heavy start, and we see. Did you both watch it? Was there dubbed? I watched it with subtitles.
I watched it dubbed.
I watched it with subtitles.
Okay. So I started. I think I was eating as this started. So there's a couple moments where I sort of like looking down early part, and almost is one of the reasons I need to rewatch it. I mean, I got it. I got what was happening, but I basically wasn't ready, is what I'm saying. I just that was not.
You just sat down with your food, and you're like, I'm gonna watch that.
Just ease me into it while I'm finishing off something. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna watch. I don't think anyone can be ready for that. Unless they've already seen the movie. Like,
yeah, true.
I feel like even if I've seen that movie, I would even after having watched it, I feel like that it's so well done that I feel like it doesn't matter how many times I watch it, it will always catch me.
Yeah,
it's just so matter of fact, because then we go to like young Shoya and Shoko, and in the classroom setting. So like following that, where we see a young, or they're all young at that point, and the introduction of Shoko and what that means for the whole dynamic. And there's a point where we then come to present day, but the contrast between the two versions of Shoya is like that gave me whiplash almost. It's like, who is this, and how did that turn into that? And obviously we find out why. But young Shoya is just I was going to say the class clown. I guess he's that, but he's a bit more, I don't know if sinister is the right word, because he is still a kid, but in terms of the actions he's doing, quite damning. So we see the class, we see him acting up. And actually, no, even before that, we get the montage, right? Because there's the montage with, what was the song? The Who?
My Generation.
My Generation, yeah. That actually threw me off as well, because I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, wait, what?
But actually, when I was sort of like, as I say, reading into it, the director said she picked that song because she wanted a song that everyone would recognize, because I think it gets used a lot, so much across generations, that I'd like to think that this isn't a sign of me being old now, but I'd like to think that the kids at least know that song as well. Maybe like if they don't know it, then like at least they recognize it. But yeah, she apparently wanted to pick like a song that people would like recognize and like kind of get the general gist of like here's some kids and their friends and they have no worries at all and they're just doing whatever and being kids and being happy.
Yeah, no, it definitely comes across because he's top of the tree, top of the, I don't know, whatever the hierarchy is in school. He's carefree, has no worries about other than what he wants to do. And then Shoko's introduced. So you get the, here class, stop what you're doing. We've got a new student. She comes over and she's deaf. So she's writing on the pad. And just again, that whole scene about it, it almost felt like watching, like you watch National Geographic and you see like the habitat of the, I don't know, the wild antelope or something has been disturbed by the introduction of this other animal. That's what that was like. It's like, oh, she's disabled and we've got to write. We don't get that. And I think there was a point made about using sign language, which Shoya initially it looked like there was some attempt. And then, was it Ueno? Just shut that down. And he was like, cool, we ain't doing that. This is how this is going to go. So I'm sure we'll get to her in a moment. But yeah, that was wild. So then now it's like, okay, she's getting bullied. That is it. And then that introduces our two main characters and the dynamic. So by that point, which is still quite early in the film, we understand. We understand what is happening. And then obviously later on you see older Shoya completely switch. But yeah, that sequence is great. And again, the director almost like the narrative details are muddied a bit so that the feeling comes through in a similar way to Your Name, which I mentioned. So yeah, there's it's just, the way it's told is fantastic. We'll talk about some of the other kind of visual elements, but does that change the way you engage with, I mean, I'd say a story like this, but just stories in general when it's less about the chronological narrative telling of something versus the slightly more abstract, and it's about the feeling that these moments, these images, this audio is telling. Did you feel that? Did it change how you interact with it?
I'm going to say, yeah, I definitely felt it. And I think for me, things that prioritize how you feel and evoking feeling first rather than necessarily making perfect sense and filling all the loopholes connect with me a lot better. I'm definitely an emotional human being and I generally connect with feeling stronger than thing, if that makes sense. And I think they've done a really good, I think there's lots of elements, not just that, but the time hopping that helped me connect with that feeling first, because it was also the X's across the faces, and I think that explains so much without telling you, and then you slowly explains it in words. But for me, I already got it because it was a lot of shots from the ground and their faces blocked out, which is
a lot of ankles in this.
Yeah, but it was sort of reminds me of a bit in Apothecary Diaries. Very small spoiler, but there's a character that doesn't recognize faces. So he has no way to recognize faces except for 3 or 4 faces in total, and they're just people that are really important to him. And so everyone is just what's the board game with the black and white pebbles?
Reverse.
Go.
Oh, Go. Oh, checkers.
Not checkers. Like a Japanese.
It begins with S.
Anyway, so they're just the little pebble things.
Right.
They're black and white. So that the X on the faces kind of reminded me how that also portrays how that feels to look at.
Yeah. That's such a good portrayal, and that speaks again to the feeling of this. It's hard to do actually because I'm just thinking about if I was making a story like that. I mean, it's very well done. It's difficult to do because in a way you're leaving bits out, you're not explaining things, and I guess this is part of my point about exposition, where you're not saying this is the reason why there are X's over the faces, even though it's kind of, he talks about it, but even that, he talks about it for him. He's not explaining it. He's talking about his feelings through it. But it is just a difficult thing to do, because you have to not only trust in your own ability to tell the story without explaining to yourself, but that the audience will follow you along with this, and trust the audience that they'll connect. Because the more you leave out, the more connections you're asking the audience to make. But then in doing that, like you say, Tazziii, I feel it emotionally just makes it, one is a bit of a reward if you get it, if you're like, oh, I got it. But then there's also that connection, because then you're relying more on your feeling. There's a element of projection, and I feel that's why this is such a therapeutic experience, because I'm sure there's all experiences that we've had that will sort of bring up and fill in those gaps, and that's what that was there. I just think it's just a great way to do it, even though it's very heavy. I don't have a question. I'm just exposing.
No, totally. And to me, it feels like almost like the way you would learn naturally about a situation. So, at first you kind of just see the surface details, and then like the more time you spend with it, like it's just kind of like almost figuring out why someone's done it. Like you need to like engage with that person, and you start to learn like all the little things that have like come into it. It is like really difficult to like tell a story like that, where you're only giving the audience the things that they need to know to try and like inspire a certain feeling in them. So yeah, so like, at the beginning, like, oh, the sort of inspiring some kind of like intrigue, slight sadness, like, oh, what's happened to this guy? And then the whiplash of like, oh wait, hold on, he was like popular as a kid, what on earth happened? And then like,
yeah,
you slowly get all these things to build up a picture, which is literally like, for me, is almost like how you would like learn about almost anything, really, like any kind of situation, relationship, feeling, person, people.
Yeah, it's more organic in that sense. And I think when you're writing something like this, I keep coming back to the exposition thing, but just because this is such a good counter, the exposition works when the audience has questions and then you're answering the questions. So like you said, Feff, in this case, we see young Shoyo and then we see old Shoyo, and like, wait, what? What? Like, this is literally a different person. What happened? Question mark. Now you can give us the exposition about what happened. So like we said, there's lots of heavy themes in there. I'll go off the bullying one first, because that sort of opens up everything else. And we see the idea for this at the beginning. We see Shoko has a disability and is picked on purely because of that. Is like she starts like communicating with the written word, but then there's an attempt for others to learn sign language. Someone feeling it. There's a question of like, why do we have to do that? It's easier for me if we just write things down. So she's bullied there, and then it gets to a point where it's too much, and then one day Shoko doesn't show up, and then the principal comes, and I feel because I've put in my notes, sort of it's bullying as a collective failure. Now, obviously, there are named perpetrators of it, but even with like the teacher, because the teacher was checked out, like it's like stuff was happening, and he was just like, he obviously knew, because when it got to the point of stand up class, he was like, stop wasting time, show you. We knew it was you, so obviously he knew.
He also knew, but he also picked on one kid in the class, even though he was clearly aware of what had been going on. And knew that it wasn't that one kid, and had absolutely no care that then that he literally outed this kid and then made him the next subject of being bullied. Rather than letting the kids figure out for themselves what they should do and like help guide them to not like just have a fool guy. He literally gave them the fool guy.
The fool guy, yeah. Well, because he was just not checked in until that moment to blame the one kid, and obviously he has blame, but it was a group effort. Because I keep forgetting her name, even though I've said it. The what I'll call the genuine bully.
Ueno.
Ueno. So because the hearing aid thing, like that shocked me because it had already gone far enough. That was too far. It's like when she saw, she's got hearing aids, pulling them out, throwing them, and then showing her throwing them out the window. And I know, obviously, like kids don't quite have the full brain development and all that, but that's too far. That was just a lot. And obviously it became too much, so she changed school, and then Shoya becomes the outcast, and then we see that progression to older Shoya, who's just a completely different character. So, and then everything we see from that point on, every action he takes is essentially him trying to atone for, in his words, his past sins. And that's such a, I mean, obviously he did a bad thing, but he just carries that burden with him the whole way into just about adulthood for the course of the film. And yeah, that's a lot. And it really, going back to the point about anime, just showing, or this anime in particular, showing that like real picture, we see like the impact bullying has on the person in the moment, but then also in life, the potential for it to impact in life as well.
Yeah, I think probably what makes it worse for me is that essentially everyone uses Ishida as a scapegoat, essentially. So almost like they can cleanse their hands of like the bullying that they took part in, like pretending that they tried to stop him. And I think that it wasn't just that, but it's also that like that one year like follows him because other people won't let things. So it's like that. I think one of his best friends, the lighter haired kid, as soon as like they start like middle school or the next high school, like is already telling people like, don't hang out with Ishida.
Was that
He
Miki?
will bully you. I think so.
Yes.
I can't actually remember his name.
Goody two shoes.
No.
No.
It was Kazuki who initially said, "Don't hang out with him." It was the guy.
Yeah,
he's friend.
like he's got like short blondish hair and like, if I remember rightly, like kind of grey blue eyes that were quite like dulled over. But yeah, essentially like the first day in the new school, he's like, "Don't hang out with him. He's a bully," and then that spreads. And before Ishida even has chance to like try and make a new reputation for himself, like it just immediately comes back. But interestingly, I think perhaps maybe it's not quite as spread about, because I know that was it at one point Nikki, who you do mention, does bring it up again in their class.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he's carrying this burden because it's impacted him so much, when like other people have kind of like, oh, whatever, like moved on. But that's like, again, like it's really a great way that the film shows like how, like, you know, it can be just like one instance of something like that, but it can have a massive long-term impact on someone's like well-being and like self-esteem.
Yeah. And I was interested to think about Shoko and the way she dealt with it as a kid in that moment, where she always tried to put on a happy face until the moment, I think really, at least as a kid, the only moment we see what I'd say is a genuine response to what they'd put her through is the fight she has with Shoya. Up until that point, she's always just that happy face. Is that, I don't want to sound like I'm sort of victim blaming here, but it's like, is that a good way to go about it? Because I'm trying to think how to phrase this question, because I would say that's not the best way to do it, because always trying to, everything's okay, or trying to be happy.
But that's because she already had the burden of it always being her fault. She already had the burden.
Also causing trouble and like making people have a lot of effort.
Yeah. So she was already there. She was already in that place.
Not to say that it's the right way to be. Like, it's definitely.
I'm not saying like right or wrong.
It's definitely like a maladaptation that is like, it's almost like one of those things like where it kind of works, and you see it in. This is going to get like quite dark, but in traumatized people as well. Like, certain people become very people pleasing to try and basically, and it's not healthy at all. Like, it absolutely isn't. But when you're used to being or like, being
You're the
ostracized and be
problem.
like, you're the problem. Like, it's almost like the easiest way to try and like keep people off your back is to like just assume that you are the problem and apologize and just try and be nice to everyone. It's actually one of the things that is so difficult for me, because I was like, actually, I relate to this so much, especially like over the last few years. But
especially so with a trauma response, because they tend to happen as a result of something, right? At a young age. And she still is very young at this point. So what that response is that's in response to her environment and a mechanism that she built up that has worked for her. And like generally that kind of response is a space where something else has not worked, and this is the safest route. Your brain has created a pathway that this is the safest route. We know this route. We're gonna stick to it because danger, like, is
everywhere
anywhere
else.
Yeah, this is so like that's just how the brain works. The brain is always trying to protect us, and it doesn't necessarily give us a healthy long-term coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But it gives us something to protect us in that moment as a result of experience. Like, that's all and it creates that pathway, and then it sticks to it until you actively change it.
The irony that's one of the things that angered people. So in that moment where she's clearing off, and that moment where they fight is just so many layers to it, because she's trying to help him because she's clearing off graffiti of his desk, and then he gets mad at her for putting him in a situation as a result of his actions. And then because she has the response of trying to be the people pleaser, that just always like tips him off the edge, and is like, then they have the physical altercation in that, and then she has what I took as one of the first genuine responses she has. She bites him, and they fight, and I think I can't remember her line in that. She says something like, "This is the best I can do," or something like that. And yeah, it's just really sad. I mean, there's a lot of sad moments, and there's really just sad moments to see her being pushed to that stage. And then the response, again, Shoya just sort of failing in his response in that moment as well. So, and then at least in the school, we don't see her in the school again. So, yeah. And then when we see older Shoya, and then the rest of the story becomes that atoning, and we get just so many moments, like important moments, like powerful, impactful, emotional moments on this essentially journey of redemption. So we've talked about the school sort of demanding answers, because that's when everyone turns on Shoya, and that sort of starts his descent. His mum, like when she finds out about the suicide attempt, that gave me whiplash, because the way she introduced it, where they're just at the dinner, well, I guess it was a breakfast time, maybe, on what I presume would have been either his last day. No, that was the day after he was supposed to. Yeah. And then she just like casually say, "Hey, why did you try to kill yourself?" And I'm like, wait, what? That was some casualness. And then her actual emotions come out when he gives his response. And then I really like his mom in this, but then she explodes on him and sort of, gives him like her piece and everything. Like, that moment was, boy, there's a lot in that.
I think as well, because his mum seemed like a very, very kind, like a very good space at home. It seemed like he seemed to be surrounded by love in that space, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that was like a really nice representation of like just it. Someone can be suffering, and at one part of their life, people might not realize, because that part of their life is good, that it doesn't mean that they're not struggling elsewhere. And actually, it probably would have made it harder for him, someone in that situation, to then bring that burden into that space, especially like he's got his younger sister as well. Like, if he's already feeling like a burden, you don't want to add that extra burden to the people that make you feel so safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, because it is, and she gives the kind of mom is like I didn't raise my child like this, mom. So I guess I can definitely see that he didn't want to, because even with the money situation, because so with the hearing aid, because they essentially, I think one time they pull it off, they rip her ear, so it's caused like damage, and then his mum visits Shoko's mum, and then is like, we'll pay you back. So then there's like a debt there that he feels he owes. So on his list of things to do before his final day, he's like, one of them is, I'm gonna pay you back the money. So he recognizes the impact and just how good his mum is and how much she's done and doing for him. So not wanting to mess up that situation. Yeah, because and even more so because like Shoya's just taking in everything on himself and like not wanting to burden like the family, like you say, Tazzy, and just keeping that to himself to the point where you feel your only option is to just like, I shouldn't be here, which is tough. But it's good to see like his, I guess the way his mum just handled different situations. I just really liked his mum because it's just really subtle. Like, why did you do that? And then she like explodes on him, and then she like demands that he's not going to do that again. And then he sets off on that journey of redemption. So, and then we see like the different moments that I'm sort of stepping through, where one of the small but meaningful ones is where he steps in to stop someone else being bullied. It's almost like little moments of growth on that journey. So, because I think we see him sort of consider if he's going to do something or not, and then he's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go in. So you see the difference between obviously him as a kid, different character, but then all those moments add to pushing him along that journey, because then he meets his first real friend. And at this point is where because we've seen the X's, right? So on people's faces.
Yeah.
The
X falls off of his face.
Yeah. That. So that was a funny moment in a film that is, as we keep saying, quite heavy. So he meets Tomohiro, and he essentially sacrifices his bike for the bike the bully was trying to take from him. But Tomohiro gets it back and brings it to him. It's like, we're friends now. Where there's me and you, this is it for life. But
Tomohiro is quite the character.
He is very loyal.
He's my MVP in this because he's a bit much. he's a bit much, but for Shoyo, like, it needs that, because by that point, like I said, so I presume if you're listening to this point, you've seen it, and because you heard the spoiler warning and everything. So by that point, he's essentially got to a point where he just can't look people in the face. And it's just so well represented by people's faces being covered with X's, which is also in the manga as well. And then when Tomohiro brings his bike back, we see the first like X fall off, and he's like, I see you. That's like a sign that I'm able to connect with you on some level. And then that brings him out, because he is cut off at that point, but that one spark brings him back. And I feel that that's such an important thing on his journey to just self-acceptance. Just that one person is just like, essentially, I am not going to give up on you. I just really appreciate that perspective as well. I think everyone needs that at some point.
There was like the moment when they were eating in the I think it was like a food court. And Shoyu asks about friendship.
Yeah, like, are there any requirements to be a friend?
Yeah. Like, is there a contract? And then Tomohiro goes into like this
philosophical.
And he puts the fry in his mouth as if it's a cigar, like as if he's some crime boss.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. And they do the handshake. It's like, that's our contract.
Yeah. I mean, he pretty much is quite almost bombastic like that, because then later on he gets into a fight with Yuzu, so that I'm sure we're going to get to like, but essentially, so that like Shoya can like actually say hello to Shoko, he just starts fighting Yuzu, who all we know to that point is that Yuzu's apparently Shoko's boyfriend.
That was
so yeah, I mean, even because I'm going through the marks, I'll sort of round up the story but then go into the characters, because I feel the characters then allow you to put different perspectives on those moments. So but yeah, we do get a moment where he's really trying to make amends, and then there's that block. So at that point in the film, we start to get the one connection, and we start to open up as Shoya tries to make amends and reconnect. So he's trying to see Shoko, but there's a defense. And that was one of my favorite parts for him, Tomohiro, where he's just, because I think Shoya tries once. So we get one scene where he tries to go and see her, is denied, comes back again, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to speak to her." And he's like, Yuzuru is like, "She's not here." Like, no, I can see her. She's right there. No, she's not here. And then Tomohiro comes and just manhandles. I mean, I guess to whatever credit you can give, he at that point he thinks it's a boy. I don't know if that makes any difference or not, but he just like basically picks her up. He's like, if my friend wants to see her, he's coming in, like, and I'm going to do whatever I want. Again, everyone needs that kind of friend. They're just like, if he says he wants to come in, we're getting in, and I'm going to do whatever I can to help that.
He is like the MVP for sure. Like
he's so funny. That's great, like, because he's comic relief, but then and you need that in a film. You need something to laugh at, but then there is a real like meaning and role for him in this. And then the other moment I wanted to highlight was what I'd say is almost like a Dark Night of the Soul moment for him, where Shoya sort of. So at this point, he's sort of reconnected everyone. So he has connected with Shoko, and in most all of the main sort of classmates. But then when it comes out about his past and everything, and all together, and he just like loses it and basically pushes everyone away. And it's that on this redemption journey, you always want to have setbacks, like from a narrative perspective, to make it interesting. Is one of the reasons why Zuko in Avatar: Last Airbender is I still have not found a better redemption story in media. If you can, you've got our contact. If there is one, send it to me. But one of the things is you see him fail. He fails, and he fails like multiple times in big ways. And for this point, for Shoya, he's made such progress by this point to have his past like uncovered and that just things thrown up, and then he just pushes everyone away in quite damning. He's got something for everyone. He just like, he knows what's wrong with everyone, and even the what's the redhead?
Mashiba, I think.
Right? Okay.
Mashiba, the
guy,
the outsider.
Yeah. I mean, he just, like, after he's given everyone a piece of his mind, he just comes over. He's like, "You got anything for me?" He's like, "Yeah, you're new. Don't interrupt." I actually laughed at that moment, but it is quite a dark moment because that's him having made progress, which is almost like a reversal as well. And just, that whole journey. And again, sort of mental health and well-being. I feel like I already know the answer to this. Like, just how effective is this film in showcasing that well-being journey as not just it's not just a point by point, now you're okay. It is that winding path, and sometimes a backwards path as well, right?
Oh, so well. Yeah. That moment I was like, "Oh yeah, I've been there, dude. I've been there, buddy. I know how you're feeling." And literally in that physical position as well. Like
yeah, it is effective and should, and I think it kind of surprises a lot of people, particularly those who've never like had to deal with mental health issues before, or particularly long-term ones, that it's not a straight line journey. It's almost like a scribble, depending on what challenges you have, because also like life will throw things at you, so it's never.
There's always something new to traumatize you.
Exactly. I'll stress you. You know, there's always something that needs to be done. There's always something bad that's going to happen at some point, and yeah, I think it is dark. It was painful to watch because I was like, oh no. I was like, oh my. I was like, oh, it's hurting so much, but also like these people are actually being like, I actually related as well because I'm like, you know what? Actually, no, these people have been like a bit like crap because like
it's not a perfect group of people, as there's no perfect people, but particularly
I mean some of them are very malicious.
We'll get to that.
But yeah, it's like I feel, to be honest, sometimes it's like, you know what, I kind of wish I could do that because what I do is like the opposite. I just kind of retreat into myself. Like I think a lot of things that I would like to say, which I probably shouldn't. I know I shouldn't say, so I don't. But I'm kind of like, I wish I'd said them though.
Okay,
Trying to find that middle ground between delivering the truth, because he kind of says the truth. He's not.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. No, I saw no lies told.
In maybe like less. Like you
I mean, if you put a beat to that was a diss track
about it.
And I think also, like, if we think of this from the cultural perspective, like as well, like in Japan, you're supposed to kind of like conform.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
And then, and then this guy comes in like, no, you're all suck in this guy. Yeah.
Here are your flaws.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yeah. Feff, have you seen a film called A Real Pain?
I have not, but I'm adding it to the list.
So Jesse Eisenberg, but I watched it at the start of the year. I've never felt so seen in a film for not necessarily good ways, but there's a whole thing about how different people interact with the world and people around them, and then the idea of like those awkward conversations. So you were saying like, you should have said things at certain points. As a character in this, he just says what is on his mind, not necessarily in an angry way even, but it's in an awkward way. Like there's points in that there's real awkwardness, but then it has the impact of, okay, now I know what you feel and I'm going to think about that, and then we're potentially closer for it. So I recommend that as well as a little side note there. So yeah, I've skipped over a bit because we'll get to characters, but I just wanted to get to the end because I had some thoughts, because by the end, because this is a redemption story, and by the end he is redeemed, which I again really liked, not just from a narrative perspective, but from some of this is relatable to me. Okay, and I feel the film ends on you can get to that point again, which I feel is important. And as well as bullying, so we've got the aspect of essentially self-hatred. Like Shoya hates himself and struggles to feel, not even just struggles to make amends, but struggles to feel he is worthy of having amends being made. So there's points where early on with Shoko where, I don't know, it's just like everything, he's doing the things, but then he's undermining it, thinking like, oh, I've done something stupid and sorry, I said the wrong thing. But I think the first time the group get together and they're at the fun fair thing and he's questioning like, is it okay to have fun? That I like totally get that for different reasons, but that idea of like, oh, I don't deserve to have this moment, to the point where, like I mentioned, is the outburst at everyone. But then we do get to the self-acceptance, and what I really like about this film is that one, Shoya acknowledged what he had done, took responsibility and took action to address that, and then two, he didn't do it himself as a result of the people, even flawed people though they are. Except Tomohiro, he's perfect. I have no notes, no notes on him. If you need to pick up people and shake around, you do your thing. But everyone else needs to look at themselves. Yeah, so it's with the people, and in different ways they help him, including Shoko. So by the end, I thought, actually no, to be fair, I was thinking this at the beginning. In terms of Shoya's motives, for one. So I've kind of got two-part question. So Shoya's motives, for one, did you ever question them? And then two, Shoko essentially, there's not, the romance thing isn't top of the list here, but she does say, like, confess feelings for him. Is that weird? Is that the kid who used to bully you and now having feelings for by the end? How did you feel about that?
So I didn't question it. Well, actually, that's not true. Like initially, at the very beginning, there's kind of is like a question of his motives. Like, why is he like, tracked her down to this thing and like to give her a notebook, and then especially when she brings it to like the bridge where she like feeds the coin, and he's like, oh no, don't read that, and then like ends up back in the river again. But for me, like the part of her saying that she loves him is in a way like I think is probably a little weird, but it might also be like because she's kind of been bullied by people and she kind of doesn't like Shoya perhaps doesn't feel like she is deserving of it, but then like he is Shoya like making a big massive effort and showing her like in a way that maybe she does. And but also like I think she's one of the kindest people who is open to change, and probably is the one person who really acknowledges, well, other than like Yuzu later, which like not far behind Shoko to be honest, but like the one who sees his like that he's like really trying and stuff. So like I can kind of see why like how those two things might combine, like if you don't have like a lot of friends and then there's like this guy and like he's actually made it, like yes he used to be your bully but he actually seems to be making a genuine effort,
because by this point he is consistently taking, I guess, the right actions.
Exactly. So yeah, it's, and like I think the teenagers as well, so it's almost like there's probably a bit of that.
Yeah, I think there's also the thing that he's making a lot of effort compared to literally anyone else because he actually fully learns sign language.
Yeah, because he asked her to be friends in the same way she asked him to be friends, which he just, I don't know, threw dirt.
And not many people have done that. And the way they sort of position it is as if like not many people like in all of her life have done that, not just school. So the people that have are her family, like mainly her sister and Nan, who really care about her, right? And then the one friend from school, from the
I think
early
Sahara
school, yeah,
but then she like leaves. Yeah,
it's again that was like her one friend in school, and that's the only person that actually learned sign language then. And he learned sign language, but also because when the real bully, when she signs something, Shoko is really happy. And I think it's because she's happy that people are trying to understand her, even if it was a really horrible thing that she signed. She was just excited to like be in people trying to understand her and talk like in her language.
I think that one moment's also great because like I think Shoko actually she uses the opportunity to actually like get back at Ueno as well. Ueno tries to sign like Baka and it goes, she doesn't do it properly, so like obviously then Shoko's like super excited, but then she shows her how to sign it properly, but then keeps signing Baka at Ueno. So I think she does at least get to get her a little loan back on this girl who's been like bullying her massively.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's go into the characters. And so like I said, by the end we get the complete redemption, which is such a relief and release and just everything, that something positive came out of that. And I think over the course we have examined what it means to be redeemed, both externally and internally. So it's just such a great job of that. And a big part of that is the characters we've spoken about the majority of, but the characters, like when we do workshops and we do like comic workshops, and one of the things I always come across is like characters, like don't just do characters because you thought of a cool character and you just want to squeeze them into the story. Like make characters that serve a purpose, and to do that you need to know what your story is about. So obviously the director here knows what the story is about and what they're trying to say, and then you use the characters as different perspectives on that. So we've got Shoya, the protagonist seeking redemption. We got Shoko, we've spoken about, and a bunch of others. But really, I want to get to Ueno. Nayoka Ueno. She upset me. She upset me. So I I wasn't really. Was I bullied? I was never necessarily like, but at least not to this level. But I was sort of like outsider because I was one of the rare people that was sort of generally well behaved in school, and that was a weird thing in my school. Interestingly, as the day we record, so I was taking a walk before, had a quick walk, and ran into an old classmate that I literally had not seen for 2 decades. Or something, and that was a weird moment because we weren't necessarily friends, definitely different group, but there was a moment where, as a say, like if you're someone who had been bullied and you see people in that circle from that time, that's what I felt with Ueno. Like, she just picked up right where she left off. She ain't learned nothing. There's no self-awareness at all. She picked right off, even to the point of like, remember when we used to grab a hearing aid? You still do that, right? Let's do that again. That was such a, I don't know, just messing with my mind, how little she had learned that. She's a terrible person, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was so mad. I was like, it's rare that I ever
Genuinely
feel
upset.
like something, but I'm like, they just need to slap her, like, as a group. Like, just like, she like, at least
like accepting no responsibility, it's someone else's fault. Like, that's the worst type of person.
Like, just basically forcing herself into the group as well, even though like no one, even basically because she finds out that like Shoya is still around, and like, you know, he visits the cat cafe where she works.
Oh yeah, where
and
she
then
works.
she's
Yeah,
like,
of course, she hides.
Well, because she has a big, massive crush on him the whole time.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but the fact that like that no one else, but then like everyone is like, oh well, you know, she's really scary, so like, but it's just I think the scene that made me hate her, well, pretty much kind of put her low, and then like later on it gets even lower, but like when she drags her onto the Ferris wheel, and only because like Yuzu obviously sets a camera up to like secretly record them, and like they play back the footage, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know. And then after the very end, when she's like, when Shoya's in a coma, and she's like, it's your fault, even though like, you know, this girl's just tried to like kill herself, and she's like, it's your fault. Like, I'm like, just, I know, I'm like so glad when Shoko's mum comes out and starts like beating up on her. I'm like, oh my god,
thank you, someone needed to.
Yes. And I'm like, normally I don't, but like there's nothing else seems to get
condone violence. You like,
I do not condone violence, except when nothing but violence works. Yeah, no, like when it's clear that only violence will work. Like,
nothing else is. I mean, even that didn't really get through to her, but like at least there were maybe some sense got into her at that point.
Yeah, hopefully.
At least that there is like, there can be consequences, but I would love to know like her story. I feel like she's just got like a really rough time at home or something, because she's bitter from the beginning.
Boy.
Yeah, it's true.
She came in with a chip on her shoulder. I mean, it's a good perspective to include, because it also contrasts with Shoya, because he's a protagonist, so we see him, but he, like I said, takes responsibility. He has awareness, and he's trying to change. And when they reconnect, they're just two completely different people. Whereas at the beginning, even though I feel there's some level of Shoya still playing up to a role, rather than like Ueno, whatever she's doing, she believes it. Like, I can see that she believes in hate. I don't know if Shoya ever did, but regardless, he did terrible things, but he's learned, and we see just the difference in them. It's just interesting to compare that.
There might be a character that I dislike nearly as much.
Ooh. Is it Miki?
Yes, it's Miki, who I think is
he's sly.
I actually think it's worse
sly.
because
Wasn't my fault.
kind of knows that she knows how much of a horrible person she is. Like, even though you say she's got no self-awareness, she has self-awareness that she's a terrible person. She just has no awareness of whose fault things lie in. But Miki, she thinks she's some
slick.
good and she plays the victim card so that she can look like the golden girl while it puts everyone else in harm. Like she literally, I think that's kind of worse. I would much prefer to be around Juno than Miki, because
at least you know.
Yeah, like at any point she's be like, cry and be like, I didn't do anything. And now because she's crying, everyone's just going to listen to her because she's just this poor innocent. And she's not. She and she's completely unaware. She's completely oblivious to, well, I don't know. It's like, it's either she's completely oblivious to the harm that she's causing, or she's 100% aware and is being 100% manipulative.
Oh, that'll be even worse.
I think it's the second. She is completely aware because, like...
Because she's always talking about people behind her back. She must...
Yeah, she talks about people behind the backs, and then, like, she tells Mashiba at school, like, she starts telling them about how it is, and it's because, like, when, like, Mashiba is, like, starting to learn the group, like, he learns that, like, Shoko was bullied, and I guess I feel like she tries to preempt, especially because it's like it's known at grade school, like this happened. She's like preempting it because she knows and she's guilty, but she's like, well, you know, like, well, we all agreed it was like Shoya, so like, yep, it's like it was just him. It was totally him. I had nothing to do with it. I was just nice. And I was like, no, you weren't. Like,
no, you weren't. She was
like,
so horrible. She was actually really horrible.
It's like, you hung up with Ueno, and like when Shoko wants to like, tries to like come by, like, I think it's like a play gym or something, or some bars, they just walk off, all of them.
Yeah, I think you're right about she's planning it. It's like she almost like sets up these like backups for when the truth comes out, that she can manipulate it so that she is the nice girl. And because she's like the smart one, she was like the class rep, right?
Yeah.
So like she can't have her perfect record tarnished. And gosh, that makes everything in me cruel. As my worst kind of person. I much prefer the out there horrible person than the sly just lining up.
I feel like on that kind of line of like things that infuriated me, I was like, sometimes my feelings like, just tell them you were a dumb kid. Like, surely everyone understands being a dumb, but it's different. It's like a different culture. It probably wouldn't have flown. Like, it definitely would here because like everyone does dumb stuff as a kid. But I'm thinking out like this is probably like a feature of Western individualism that we can like forgive people for like their past sins, because like
some people can.
I
don't know if you've been on Twitter recently.
A lot of people can, some people can't, but like for the most part, like you could like with the right people, you know, just go look, like, you know, I was ignorant child, like didn't need to.
She's extra manipulative because she doesn't. It's not just about the group, because she could have admitted to it in the group. But you know what she does? She makes a scene of it in the classroom where none of these people are relevant. They've all got crosses on their faces, but she makes sure that they all witness that, so that she's got an army on her side. She's not like playing around. She's like, no, I need to be seen as innocent and kind by absolutely everyone. And that's what, she just grinds my gears. Never trust her. She's not allowed in a friendship group.
At all. I mean, speaking of forgiveness, Yuzuru, who I really like as a character and what she represents. So after she gets picked up and shook about, we learn that one, she's not Shoko's boyfriend, she's a sister. And what she represents is that the external forgiveness, because like the whole family don't like Shoya, like the mum don't like him. See, at the time, Shoko doesn't like him, and then for that reason, the sister doesn't like him. But in part, see Shoya's genuine attempts at redemption, but she slowly opens up, and it's all they form their own relationship. And for me, it was that representation of because Shoya needs to forgive himself internally, but then externally for what he has done, that there's that external forgiveness, and she represented that. She's a cool character. I like.
She's a really
like
cool
her.
character,
Yeah,
and she also
just chill.
like not just that sign of like external forgiveness, but also that people should have the opportunity to not exist in like stuck in a story that someone else has experienced of them. And
Yeah,
Izuru
that's a
gets
good
to
point.
see like Shoya's kind side and see him being kind, which he clearly had, because you always see him interact really sweetly with his niece, and he's really kind to his mum. So you actually he gets to write a different story with her and have their own relationship that is based on him just being nice to her, not because he's
Someone
trying to
told you
redeem
about
himself,
something.
not because that's just genuine kindness
Yeah.
coming out as of genuine caring.
That's true. Yeah, because there's that, someone said this person did this, and now you got to cut them off because of this person said that about them. Like, wait, but maybe that's not the sum total of who they are.
I think she actively challenges her mother on that.
Yeah.
Where she's like, the mum's like, you need to stop like I think this is when Shoya helps bring her back like home after she's run away, and the mother's like, you shouldn't spend time with that boy, and she's like, maybe let us figure that out, like we'll decide for ourselves if we want to like spend time with this guy or not. So yeah. I thought that was like
because the mom does hold a grudge, understandably so. And it's quite a contrast between his mom and her mom, because they're just different characters. Again, for what they've respectively like just going through. But then she does. Shoko's mom does open up by the end after she learns what Shoya has done in terms of saving her daughter. So then there's that forgiveness on her part as well to Shoya's mom. So everyone, well, apart from Ueno, gets to a place of like a bit more understanding. And for Shoya, again, coming like to the narrative and storytelling, what's because I've seen some bits when I was looking at reviews and analysis and things of, I think some people finding the whole story difficult to follow because Shoya is hard to root for because of what he did, and it's the idea of the I guess unlikable protagonist. Did you find out at all, like, I asked at the beginning what you felt of Shoya in the moment of sort of the bullying, but over time, did you like Shoya, or did you not like him? What was your view? And is he worthy of redemption, and us as an audience following him along on his journey? Because that's the whole idea of the protagonist. Yeah. For the most part, you want the audience to root for them, but can we root for this guy?
I'm going to say this, yes, because he was a literal child. Yeah, and like that's it. Like, he was a literal child. He grew up. He realized that what he did was wrong. That is growing up. That's exact. And yes, he was quite horrendous, but he was getting egged on, and he was kind of just like a kid. Kids can be mean, especially in a culture that holds you to really fit in. Like, standing out is very. Like, it's standing out, just human nature is just kind of a thing anyway, but let alone if as a society then even further discouraged. He's just being a kid. He's just running the programming that he was born with.
People get the crowd what they want.
He's a kid, like, it pretty much doesn't start, as you mentioned, till like Ueno kind of starts making comments about. She starts making comments like, "Oh, like, we're not gonna like win the choir, or this is gonna be tricky," and it's only then. But also, like, I think he's worthy of redemption and likability just because he really tries. Like, even when he's at his lowest, like as he's preparing to like kill himself, basically, he's trying to make amends. Like, he worked a part-time job to pay his mother back for the loan. Like, he returns the notebook to Shoko. He like he actually like quits his job like normally, like he hands in his resignation. He doesn't just like vanish like
Bo in going back to Superstore, because last episode he quit. He's like, I'm out.
He makes the big, and like, yes, it's probably coming from like a space of like self-hatred, but like he's doing a lot of work to try and like, I guess in the way some people might see it as making him feel better at first, but it seems like he genuinely wants to be a better person. Like, even though he's scared, he does eventually do these things that like get him back to like having almost like a normal teenage life with friends and stuff. And I think that's really admirable, because it's not easy, especially because like after, in none of this does anyone who gets any help whatsoever. They normally get yelled at. So for him to like still like carry on is like, is pretty strong. Like, I think he's worthy of respect, even if like the things he did as a kid were dumb and childish and like, yes, expensive and very like bullying. But as I say, he is a kid, and he definitely didn't deserve to like be scapegoated in the way that he was. Absolutely not.
He was definitely a product of his environment. Like, the teacher didn't care that Shoku was getting bullied. So
exactly. So like, yeah, so it's like the system failed all of them.
Yeah.
Basically. But I think that is the point of the story, isn't it? It's like, you know, these things are like, it's like collective failings and like how it impacts people.
No, absolutely, and it's that like just a realistic look. So, and I mean, we've talked about the themes. I want to go over that because I thought about that. And one thing I did want to mention, I mean, we've talked about it already. The X's. First, just wanted to come back to that for a second, because there's a lot of symbolism in this, and that was sort of the most obvious in that. But just how that was such a good depiction of that idea of being alone. Because if you think someone's alone, you feel, they are physically alone, or they've locked themselves in a room and they're not going out anywhere. And obviously that is one. But what I appreciated of this story and its telling is that the scenes where he is around people and you see a lot of X's and he's alone, there's people around him where you just can't engage with them, you can't look at them. And there's 3 scenes in this where we see Shoya is walking down a hallway in different ways. So as a kid, this is where he's carefree, king of the world, just striding through the school. So that's the first time. And then later when he's older and we see him, like, he can't look people in the eye. I think that's the first moment where the X's just appear on people's faces. So, and that, because in the moment it sort of threw me off, like what is going on, until I sort of realized. And then obviously at the end, when they all come off, and they're all scenes where he's around people and showing the different kind of points of his emotional journey. I just thought that was so well done, because for him and for Shoko, they both hate themselves, and that's a really sad thing to say, but it's and it sort of leads them to want to take that step of suicide. And the director Yamada said she was determined to confront the topic with integrity and treat it gracefully, and stressed that it is by any means not the right decision, but addressing that's where the characters have led them. So so that's like obviously one of the themes. I just wanted to bring in that symbolism aspect to it. We talked about the bullying, so we talked about like the actions that at a young age can impact you as an adult. So think about the actions you take. But one of the lines that Shoya said is again so heavy, and it's the weight on this guy. He said the sin I committed was turned back on me. With that sin turned back on me, I learned I was deserving of punishment, and so I became isolated. That says a lot. To use the word sin, like we're talking biblical now, to sin, and in that I was deserving of that. So even that moment I mentioned where he says, where they're having fun at the fun fair or whatever it was, like, can I even do this? Am I allowed to do this? Have fun? Am I allowed to have friends and have moments like this? Like, that's heavy.
That's a lot to carry as a child. Like, it's a lot for anyone to carry,
Anyone,
but
yeah.
it's very heavy for a child to carry that. Yeah.
And then I really liked, I've mentioned the taking responsibility, because ultimately we see Shoya take responsibility and then take those actions, and I feel he doesn't do the blame game thing. It's him. I mean, obviously he takes it too far the other way, but he takes responsibility, and I feel the benefit of that. And good for like anyone listening to think about. I try and think about this as well. It's like you can do something about it, and I think for me that's what I took from his actions. Like if you don't take responsibility, you're waiting for someone else to fix it for you, and it might never happen, probably won't happen. But if you take responsibility, and he can do something. So I took a lot from him, taking the small actions, bigger actions, having people respond to him in positive ways, and getting to that point. And I think there's a couple lines where I know his mum says it, where it's like, you'll be better tomorrow. In the early days, I think the first time she heard about the bullying, like, you'll be better tomorrow. And I think she's either she said it or someone else says it, but it's idea that you can change, things can change starting today, or I think they literally say tomorrow, but you can change. I really appreciate that.
But there's also like an interesting thing about Shoya taking on responsibility, because he doesn't just take responsibility for his own actions. He takes responsibility for a lot of other people's. Obviously, he ends up being the fall guy. But also there's the point where he's on suspension, right? And he's not supposed to leave the house while he's suspended. But his sister asks to go and pick up Maria, his niece, because she's going out. And she's like, oh, like, it'll be fine. You're just going to pick Maria up. It's not a problem. And he's just like, well, I'm supposed to be like carrying out my punishment. Just let me carry out my, like, that's the kind of sense. And then, but he's just like, okay, like, I will also take on your responsibility, which is your child.
Right.
And there's just little moments where he's taking on the responsibilities that aren't even like his. Like he's carrying everyone else.
I mean, that's a self-esteem, right? It impacts where you're, this is yours and this is not yours, but you might not see that.
Well,
it doesn't have those boundaries.
I do notice after, like, when he finds Yuzu, as a result of, like, going to pick up Maria, Yuzu starts coming around to actually look after Maria as well and spend time.
Yeah,
so it's almost like,
yeah.
So, like, yes, he takes on these responsibilities, but as he, like, continues to make these steps, like, I don't think he realizes, but he starts to rely on other people to, like, help shoulder some responsibilities. It's not really called attention to directly like some of the other things, but it is something I did notice, like, and again, like, by he reconnects like Shoko and Sahara, and like through that, like, they start like he starts like bringing more friends, but then they start taking responsibilities. So like Sahara starts like spending time with Shoko, and it's
that's a good point.
Then his Tomohiro, he flipping tries to. He doesn't even have to give him responsibilities. Like, Tomohiro just comes in, like,
really dealt with it.
He takes them.
He is about that life. He's like, I got you. I got you.
Anticipating moves.
I got you.
And I think it ties into what you said, like the other theme of like, it's not like you can change. It's what I think Shoko-sen says to Sahara after her suicide attempt, where she's like, I'm really sorry, like, I'm still a coward, I haven't changed. And she's like, it's not too late to change. That
was it, yeah.
And then Shoko as well apologizes for the suicide attempt. She's like, I wasn't able to change, which is really sad as well.
It is really
sad.
Really sad.
But there is that thing of like, you can't do it by yourself. Like, it's like the bigger things happen when more people start getting involved and like help with each other, and obviously like it's when the group falls apart that like Shoko starts making like it's back to like Shoko and Shoya, and like then like Shoko's like, oh, like anyone who hangs around with me is gonna like suffer. So then she makes that like decision to like basically Yeah,
that was a hard one
commit
because
suicide.
she looked fine. Like from they had the fireworks festival and everything's cool, and they've got it's such a sad moment because even I didn't know it was going to go that way, but it just felt a bit ominous because they're having a moment because it came after he is like, I'm going to spend today and tomorrow and we're going to hang out all this time, and then comes to the mum's birthday, goes to the festival, and they have that sign of like see you later, and they do the sort of sideways peace sign, see you later. So he learns that, and then at the end she's like, oh, I have to go, and he's like, oh, okay, and he does the see you later, and she doesn't do that. She does something
that was a big sign. I saw it coming, like from the moment there was a moment once they were sitting alone that was like, oh my god, she's gonna get up and leave and she's gonna go. And then as like little bits, I was like, oh my god, please hurry up and get back. Get back. And I was like, he was taking off his shoes. And I was like, stop taking off your shoes, just run in there and go save her. Like, hurry up.
For me, it was as soon as she's like, I'm gonna go and do homework, I'm like, okay, oh, is it first of all I was like, oh, has he just taken like so much time that she hasn't? And then I was like, no, you wouldn't come to like a firework festival and be like, I got to do homework.
Like this is a big community thing. This is like it's not like a small like, oh, we decided to pop out. This is planned.
And this is like from personal experience. You were saying like she seemed like really fine beforehand. Like that is actually something that can be a big sign.
Yeah, I was reading that after
I have a personal experience within the family of this. I won't go into details. Is very like everything's fine now, but essentially we thought everything was fine. We actually thought things were like ticking up, but it turns out like that can happen because like someone's made that plan and like they see like, oh, it's the end of suffering, and that can make people like happy. Like seem like they've suddenly just like made a sudden recovery all of a sudden. But yeah, it was like really well done and very realistic.
Yeah, most planned, most suicide attempts are planned, but they're normally done on the happiest of that person. Like they want to feel their happiest before. And because like for me, I think I just remember what the first a sign was. It's when she was holding the cup and you can see the rings where the fireworks are vibrating. And she closes her eyes and she's savoring that moment like it's the last time she's ever going to feel those fireworks.
Right.
At least that's how I read it.
I know.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't know.
And I was kind of spot on. So, but yeah, and it's like those little things of like that, like. There were tells. When people go, I had no idea when something like this happens, and I've not been first hand, but I've been like second hand of someone else experience it, and I'm like, are you sure there were no signs? Like but it's just about being aware of what those signs are because they exist. And I like that awareness, but we're just not aware of what those signs look like unless you have had personal experience on one side or the other.
Because as I was putting notes together and just watching different videos and came to one that talked about it, and they were saying like if even because the guy was doing a really good analysis of it. I'll find the video and show you. It's somewhere in the notes, but he's doing a really good analysis, and even he like sort of broke away from the analysis like, oh, actually you should know this is a sign if you see this, because it was a not complete surprise. It was only when he did the see you later and she did the not see you later thing. I was like, oh, that don't look good. But he was like, yeah, this is a sign. So I learned something there as well. So yeah, just that whole sequence of the tension, and even the way when because you don't see her jump, you see the curtain sort of cover and like almost like covering up that what is in a way like a sort of intimate moment, but just covering that up, and then the tension afterwards when he's got her, and then that was a sequence. I will say though, because he is in a coma and he he walks out of the hospital. Is there no security in Japanese hospitals?
Yeah, I was like, it didn't beep or like normally if someone's in a coma, it's like
someone's watching you, like yeah. At that point, I was like, I'm just in the story anyway. Just let it go. But I was like,
I do think it is quite common for people to wake up from comas and walk away from the hospital.
Okay,
like it's not an uncommon thing. It's enough that it's in a lot of media and like you can see news stories about it.
Right. If someone is stabilized in a coma and they've had good things, you don't find medical staff hanging up because of too much to do. Hey, speaking from personal experience, you'll find that like once someone is more stable, that normally there would be like a ward person nearby that you can talk to, but essentially if someone's stable, you generally do routine checks every so often outside of visiting hours, which is probably how Ueno was able to just lock people out, because they tend not to, unless there's certain people, like you tend to let patients and visitors be in peace while doing visiting hours.
And I can't remember if this is a real fact or a fictional one. It's at least in enough fiction to make it feel real.
It's a fictional fact.
It's a fictional fact of people waking up from comas and then wanting to then ending up in a place of emotional significance. And for some reason, in like media, fictional media, it's always a bridge. Why is it always a bridge?
Interesting.
I mean, I was going to say, it seems like there's some kind of symbolism to it that's perhaps got lost.
Or maybe like the bridge to the like other side, because coma's kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Exactly. Just figure that one out. That's why it's always a bridge. Anyway.
No, that's what we're here for. All right, so we'll going a bit long, but I kind of suspected just for the nature of this film. I feel we can't necessarily rush this kind of discussion. But as we think about final thoughts, are there any moments or anything to get off your chest in this therapy session of an episode, thing that or left an impression that we haven't maybe covered?
Yeah, mine is completely like non-therapy related. It's the most like least kind of like emotional thing. Can we talk about Maria's dad?
Oh my god!
I was gonna
the whole time. So we never see her mum. We never see Shoya's sister apart from like her legs. We never see like her.
I know we do. Towards the end, I think at the maybe at the school festival, but her face is covered by Maria. So basically, we never see her face. But then, like, the dad randomly pops his head in, like, while their mum, like, Shoya's mum's doing Shoko's mum's hair, and he just like pops his head round. And then Shoko's mum's like, "Who's that?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, my son-in-law. He just got back from service." And it's just like so. Like, where did that come from? Like,
because I'm just not used to seeing like black people in anime most of the time.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And like, he was just
he's happy though.
He's happy. He's super happy. He's like really it's really joyous and like, but like also. Like, why did we need that moment? Like, we just, like, even if he wasn't black, like, why did we need this? We've not even seen that. Like, it was just so weird.
I think it's just like a breather moment.
He's not an absent father. We needed to know. He's not an absent father.
We actually, this is not the first time we see him. So there's a moment in that, almost like that montage from when they're, like, kids, where Shoya pulls back the curtain in his room and his sister's husband just there, but there's no context for it. So it's just like he pulls it back and then there's just this random muscly black guy in a tank top.
Just behind him. About that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to catch that. I missed that.
I remember that. Now you're saying that, like, as soon as you said actually, I was like, oh yeah, that one clip that I was like,
it's a blink and you miss it. And I was like, what?
That must have been when I was taking a bite.
Yeah. Oh my god, I didn't even realize. I didn't even remember by the end. Oh my god.
But one thing that we haven't touched on that really kind of hit me was just how unprepared Shoya's school was for having a deaf student suddenly enter. Like the teacher makes no effort whatsoever. Like they put him at the back of the classroom. He's just like chatting away. He's like writing some stuff on the board, but like he's pretty much just reading from a book.
Like wherever you.
I mean, that teacher just did not care at all. At least the music teacher seemed to have some kind of reaction. But
that's true.
Like was so
just trying to get to the end of the day.
He was like paycheck to paycheck, couldn't
waiting for that school holiday.
Like,
6
he
weeks.
didn't care about any of them. Like, because even how he was with Shoko, like when Shoko took the Mickey out of her reading, and teacher was just like, "Oh yeah, don't do that." Like he just didn't care. He was constantly detached.
But the accessibility of the school, you're right, is just not there. But then even as a piece, as a story, just the way it addressed that to show the bad side is done in a good way, because you can talk about that versus, to my point earlier about sort of Western sort of media. Because if this was this isn't necessarily a kids film, even though, as we talked about, it can be shown to a certain age, but it's not necessarily a kids film. But if this was a kids film in the West, this would be like hey, welcome to this new student, everyone gather around and we're going to learn sign language and da-da-da. It's very, and not to say you can't do it like that, but I just feel this is just way more impactful.
Yeah, and there was a line that the sign language, the teacher saying about learning sign language said, and it was, one of the kids asked, "But why do we have to learn?" It was probably, because
yeah.
But the teacher that had come in to tell them had said, just went, "Oh, because it would be easier for Shoko," or something like that. Like it put the burden on Shoko rather than, well, because you should be able to communicate with your classmates, not like it was almost like it was her fault.
Yeah.
She showed up.
And I noticed the way that it was phrased was like, gave me a little bit of like a little vomity, because I was like, that's just ugh.
Damn. Yeah, there's a lot in here. I think we could just talk about this so much more, but we've covered the main things. I think I just go back to one of the takeaways is just this idea you can change, and that it left me left with hope at the end of the seeing, because we see the full journey of this character and just seeing where he started and where it ended, and the trials and tribulations of that, and just seeing like it changed for him. Like he got to that point that if you're in that situation like that, just the whole exes thing, just that was relatable on a certain level, and you just see him get to the other side of that. Okay, cool. That's a way to do that. So that was a lasting impression I had, and I think I just need to rewatch that and take this in. But just seeing how the characters were used as well. I always like when the characters are effectively used to explore different perspectives. So there's never, the director mentioned, like, obviously there's scenes of characters attempting suicide in this, but she's saying no, it's not the right decision. So it's not to say it's the right decision, but showing it. And I feel like as good storytellers, where they are saying something without preaching, that makes sense. So they're saying it, and then they're reasonably exploring the different perspectives, and even, I'm sure, for herself, just interrogating it in herself. I feel that's what we see. We see that interrogation. I feel it's such a just a well done thing. That it's something. it's something. It's a lot. So hopefully we did a good job of navigating that. As always, your listeners are welcome to let us know what you feel if you've seen this. If you've, I imagine, like, seeing it on multiple playthroughs, you'll get something different about different characters. Maybe not. Oh no, I think that's pretty much that's pretty much set. There's nothing new in that. But everything else. So that was our discussion of a very hard-hitting, heavy film, A Silent Voice. Let us know what you think. Before we wrap up for this episode, I want to do our storytelling tip. Each time we do a deep dive on the podcast, I like to pull out a storytelling tip for others to consider when making their story. So this is a consideration from someone who creates stories themselves and likes to learn from the techniques and mistakes of others. And for today's episode, I wanted to discuss essentially making your protagonist unlikable. And it might be a bit harsh in this sense, but go with me on this, because I feel that Shoya is that maybe not unlikable, but not immediately likable, or let's put it like that. But in other cases, you could have like morally complex as well as just unlikable protagonists, and the challenging prospect is kind of left me among a list of things that we've spoken about, left me thinking about how to do this, because on the surface as humans we instinctively aren't drawn to unlikable people, but if done well we can actually be quite drawn to them. So an unlikable protagonist can like challenge the audience to engage with some of the darker aspects of our human nature and confront those uncomfortable truths. Again, A Real Pain is really good for that. Not this dark, but still. So we get to question like the nature of redemption and growth. And I feel when handled thoughtfully, when done in the right way, the unlikable characters can result in some of the most memorable and emotionally resonant ones. So the challenge is here, I feel, in the West, or maybe just a universal human thing, but we're just conditioned not to like characters like this. Like we wouldn't necessarily accept them in our lives. And especially when the engagement in your story can often rest on the audience, like liking the character, liking the protagonist, and at least wanting them to succeed, you can have a barrier with an unlikable character. So in A Silent Voice, we see Shoya, who is not just flawed in himself, but is also the cause of severe emotional trauma in someone else. That's tough. And what can make him even more unlikable is that we actually see his cruelty in detail. Like we see what he does. There's no hiding room from that. And we're not even asked in the story to forgive him immediately, as he doesn't forgive himself. But as he grows older, we see the consequences of his bullying and how that's impacted him. But he's never necessarily painted as like the victim in that sense. But his suffering is part of his redemption. So then it makes the efforts to make amends like very awkward, especially at the beginning, but also very human and relatable. And it aligns with this idea that accountability has to come before redemption, as we've kind of spoken about already. So it's, we see him considering the weight of what he's done, then making amends, and something that we, the audience, can relate to. So it is kind of possible to sympathize with Shoya while not forgetting what he did. And that's the complexity that just makes this story so interesting and powerful. And I mean, we see more maybe out and out unlikable characters in stories. A couple that came to my mind, this is a throwback, but the film Scarface is probably more comically unlikable character. But just to make the point, you have Tony Montana in Scarface, who is unapologetically brutal. He murders, he threatens, he does all that in the pursuit of power, but he's compelling, and that's the key thing. His ambition, his fearlessness, and charisma like draws the viewers in. One of my personal favorites is Don Draper in Mad Men, who is, I feel we could say, is an unlikable, for the most part, an unlikable protagonist who has a lot of unlikable features, but he's also deeply compelling. Like his entire life is a lie. He struggles with genuine intimacy. He's got a surface level stuff down, but genuine intimacy, and he repeatedly betrays partners and everything that comes with it. And it's the result of like emotional damage. He's got his own self-loathing situation going on and all that. But it's also offset by high levels of charisma. Maybe charisma is that's the running theme there. And also rare moments of genuine kindness, vulnerability, some introspection as well. So are they likable? No, maybe not. But are they fantastic and iconic? Yeah, and that is kind of what you want to aim for the most part in making stories. So here are 4 things to consider when placing your story in the hands of a potentially unlikable protagonist. So number 1, context is everything. For example, The Godfather is a film franchise about bad people doing bad things, but we don't mind when the Corleones are exploiting and murdering people who are worse than themselves. So you can put your character's actions into the proper context to help with that. Number 2, make your unlikable protagonist self-aware. So if a bad person is doing bad things and they feel totally justified, that's hard to invest in. But someone who is on the wrong side of things, who knows they're on the wrong side of things, there's some potential in there. And I feel we see that with Shoya, because we've all been there in our lives at one point or the other. Number 3 is balance the introspection with action. So a character must not only feel remorse, but also make some genuine attempt to repair what they have broken. Again, Shoya does that over and over and over. So that passive guilt is less effective than like active effort to make amends. And a sister tip to that is like, you can give your unsympathetic protagonist a sympathetic goal, and maybe we can align with the goal, if not the character. And number 4 is make your protagonist fascinating. That's an option as well. So another throwback, Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal Lecter is a brilliant and cultured and incredibly well-mannered, well-spoken character who also eats people. So a bit of a character flaw, but we can kind of overlook that because of the first few things. So if you're going to make an unlikable character, maybe consider also making them so interesting that we just can't ignore them. So think about that when you're putting together a potentially unlikable protagonist. So the key is that emotional realism. So these characters often reflect real psychological struggles that we as people, as humans, go through. So we want to follow, if not fully support, that journey. So that's a tip for the episode. Let us know what you think if you've got something similar in your story. We're almost at the end, but let's check in with our guests and find out what they're up to.
We'd love to get some more details on any latest news or projects that you have there.
I'm currently working on a number of projects. One is a comic that may or may not be published by a publisher. If they ultimately decide no, I'll probably just get it self-published. It's actually about, kind of in a way, recovering from trauma. First of all, in a very bad way, but then actually like the ways in which we reconnect with the parts of ourselves that become almost like not broken, but separated in a way. So that's quite a fun one. I'm continuing with my main series, The Final Lullaby. I've just started scripting volume 4 after a bit of a break for various health and life events. And I'm sure I will, I think I've got an essay I have got an essay, I have got an essay about why Witch Hat Atelier is actually a comic about making comics in Japan that will hopefully surface one day. But for the most part, I'm just cracking on. Things will hopefully start to appear before the end of the year. But if not, I will be at Thought Bubble and probably some small events around. I tend to post these days on Mastodon about it. I am trying to get back on using my website to properly announce things again.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and we'll put a link to the website in the show notes. And anything else you want us to add so that listeners can easily find it?
Yeah, thank you, Feff, for joining us for the heaviest episode that we've done. Can you imagine? We just did a Minecraft movie for the last one.
Oh my goodness. What a whiplash. No, thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure. I mean, it is like it's definitely a story I'm very much glad in a way that I have managed to like experience. I do think actually that if more people actually did see it, maybe the world would become a slightly nicer place. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy these, like, I don't want to say unusual, but like I always feel like I'm in on the episodes where like we've got some kind of strange and or unusual anime movie. But
yeah,
I like
we
those,
may typecast our guests a little bit.
That's fine with me. I enjoy them. So no, again, thanks for having me. It's actually been nice to unpick this with some people who have also watched it.
No
I feel
problem.
like my soul is now just 5 layers lighter.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I just need to, get that off the proverbial chest. So, cool. All right, you're welcome. There you go. There's the therapy invoices in the post. So, I don't know how long this has been, but it's a good session. And if you enjoyed this episode of Story X Story, definitely make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. We now can't say what kind of episodes you'll get because, like I said, we just did Minecraft and now on this. We Minecrafted this and everything in between. Join us. You can also give us a 5-star rating and review because that helps us reach new listeners and fans of story discussions. We're also story creators, as I mentioned before, so you can check out our manga with our latest title, Origins Against All Odds, available on our website, mymanga.com. And don't forget to join us in the Studio 77 Discord as well, and for all our live stream activities. But you can chat with us there in between episodes and get involved in the Do I Look Like a Gamer video game representation campaign. So it's a yearly initiative where we have in-person and online events as well. So it's all about inclusion and diversity in the video games industry and wider culture. So we got some plans in store this year. But schedule been pushed back a little bit, but we've got event plans in the works, so stick with us. You can check out the photos of this year's campaign 40 on the website looklikeagamer.com, where when we have links to event pages and everything like that, we'll update the website as well as our socials. And as for the podcast, we release new episodes on Thursdays, and they include video game discussions, interview with creative practitioners and professionals, and deep dives into stories across pop culture. You can always give us a shout directly. Our email address is studio77@mymada.com, and our website with links to subscribe is mymada.com/storyxstory. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay safe. And remember, all you really need in life is to find someone who will pick up a stranger and toss them aside the way Tomohiro picks up Yuzu. Take care, everyone.